Hey, what's up, you two? Welcome back to another episode of New Parents in Training. I went to a class the other night about quitting. I figured that if I have issue with knowing what exactly is quitted, then people out there that might be having the same question as well. So I'm just gonna share with you guys what I have learned at night, and it was pretty interesting to say the least. Quitting is involving with everyday life, right? So if you want to go out there to buy a car, if you're unable to pay the car outright, then you have to finance the car. Then credit has to be involved. If you have a credit card, then credit is involved. You want to buy a house, mortgage, that's also a credit. It is in part of our everyday life, but it's so little that we actually know of. Did you know that some of the job positions, employer will have to run a credit report on the applicant? That's nuts, right? I mean, not just banking positions. Anytime a company need to provide you with a company card that you have to go out and and use it to buy stuff for the company, then essentially they kind of have to run a credit report to make sure that you're a trustworthy person. And some of the government job position also require the applicant to have a pretty good credit report as well. So yeah, I learned a whole lot that night. Anyway, so yeah, before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, help us out by subscribing. Okay, let's get to it. So first of all, what is credit? So credit is the ability to borrow money or services or goods with understanding that you will pay later, meaning the ability to buy now and pay later. And so there are four types of credit. The first one is called revolving credit. It's a type of credit that you can keep using until a certain limit. You must make a minimum payment each month. But otherwise, the amount that you pay can be any portion of the outstanding balance up until the full amount. If you make a partial payment, you will carry forward the remainder of your balance or the revolving debt. Most of credit card were considered as the revolving credit. Second one is called charge cards. It used to be very commonly issued by the retailer for their own exclusive establishment. It kind of acts like a credit card, but then you have to pay the full balance at the end of certain period. So they don't permit you to carry a balance. Number three, service credit. Service credit, you can think of it as your utility at home, such as your water, electricity, cable, internet. They provide you with the service up front, but you have to pay it at the end of the certain period. Usually it's monthly. So the more recent version of FICO score and the Vantage score, what they do is they will factor in your utility credit into your scoring system as well. But those payments might not always be reported to the credit bureaus, so it might not even show up on your credit score. Number four, installment credit. Examples are student loan, house mortgage, and also your car loan. So those are the loans with a specific amount of money you have to repay with interest at a fixed monthly payment. So those are the four types of credits out there. So it doesn't matter which one I just mentioned above. The lender are not just gonna give you a credit with no limits. They have to assess your credit worthiness. Think of it this way. If someone that come to you, a stranger out on the street, asking you for money, what's the likelihood that you will give that person money? Very slim. If you want to, if someone that come and panhandling, then you probably get them the change that you have, but not much. But let's say like if your friends or your family member that come to you and asking to borrow money, well, then that's a different story, right? Because you know that person. Because you know that person, so you know that they are good up to a certain amount of money. Now, depending on who that person is, I mean, what kind of situation they in, then you might be wanting to lend them like $100 or $1,000 for that matter. Now, that's really only because you know that person. So as for the lenders, now we're talking about in the business sense, the banks or the credit union or the car dealership, when they want to make a deal with you in terms of lending you money, but they don't know you, but they still want to do business to sell you that product with the understanding that you will repay them with interest down the road. So in order for them to trust you enough to lend you the money, they have to access your credit history. For example, your credit report. So now what is credit history? It's essentially is a history of you borrowing money and repayment over a period of time. So usually these are being reported by your bank, credit union, or your credit card company or your creditors to the three independent credit bureaus. The three being that the Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So when all the credit history is being reported to the bureaus, those three bureaus will in turn compile them into a file, what is known as the credit report. So what is a credit report? Credit report is not just your credit history, but also your identity, such as your known addresses. That means where you have lived now or before, and some of the alias name that you have used or that's under your account. So it's quite extensive. They're also including anything that's public records and such as things as bankruptcy or foreclosures. So information remain in the report for 7 to 10 years. And inquiries such as application to new credits, inquiry only lasts for about 2 years, but it will impact your credit score in the first 12 months. So the more inquiries you have on your credit report, then the lower that your credit score will become. Now, what is inquiries? Inquiry is just that when you try to apply for something that require you to borrow money, then the lenders will request for your credit report so they can see how trustworthy you are before they will lend you the money. Every time you apply for something that required to get your credit pull, then that's considered as an inquiry. Now, there is a grace period. Okay, so when you go out and try to buy a car or buy a house, most of the time we won't have enough money to purchase that item outright. So what we end up doing is shop around for a loan or mortgage to buy the things first and then do an installment plan to repay back the money that we borrow. Because there are so many lenders out there, not every one of them are created equal. Some will give you 3% in terms of interest rate. Some might give you, such as car dealership, they might give you like 0.99%. So it's less than 1% in terms of interest. So they want you to buy the cars, and not only that, they want you to borrow money from them while you purchase that car. Now, because not everywhere is going to give you the same interest amount, what you should do is to shop around to see who give you the best interest. However, the problem is that they will not know how much interest they can give you unless they pull your credit score. You cannot just go up to them and go and tell them that, okay, look, I have over 700 points in my credit score. You should give me the lowest interest that you have on. No, they're not going to do that. They will do their part by pulling your credit report and see how trustworthy you are before they will lend you the money. So every time that they pull your credit report, then that's an inquiry. So the grace period is like this. If you decide to buy a car or house, do so within 30 days when you shop around for loans or mortgage. So this way, when the inquiries start showing up in your credit report, they will know that you are shopping around for better interest. So for that 30 days, calendar days, all those inquiries will only count as one instead of multiple single ones. So in that sense, your credit score will get lower because there is an inquiry, but then it won't get hurt as much as if you get so many all at once. Now, the grace period is only good for 30 days. So make sure that if you decide to want to go out and buy a car, once your first credit is being pulled, make sure that you finalize choosing which lender you want to go with within 30 days. Buying a car is one type of inquiry. Buying a house is a different type. Now, just because you did everything within 30 days, those still count as separate inquiries. So keep that in mind. So that's it for today's video. I just so much information about this credit. So today I just go over what is credit and what type of credits are there. So come back next week. I'll be posting another video. Well, for the next week video, I'll be talking about what goes into calculating your credit score. I think that's the most important part because it's hard to kind of figure out like how they determine the number that they came up with. Such as FICO score. FICO range from 300 all the way to 850. How do they come up with those numbers? Yeah, before this class, I was baffled by that. I mean, like I had pretty good credit. It's just that I don't know how they come up with those numbers. Do they just put out a thin air or what? So yeah, come back next week. I'll be talking about more in terms of what goes on into calculating your credit score. Well, hopefully you enjoy this video and find it informative. If you do, well, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bye.